It was a blistering summer afternoon in the small, dusty town of Dry Creek, where the wind carried whispers and wagons rattled along broken roads, when Amelia walked through the marketplace clutching a small basket of bread and herbs. She was quiet, graceful, and painfully out of place among the hardened faces and jeering mouths that followed her every step. Her family had fallen from grace years ago when her father's debts had ruined them, and since then Amelia bore the shame of being both poor and beautiful, a combination the cruel townsfolk never let her forget. She wore a simple cotton dress patched at the sleeves, but even that was too fine for the bitter women who muttered about her and too tempting for the drunken men who lurked in shadows. She had come only to fetch flour for the week, yet already she regretted stepping into town. The market, alive with the shouts of sellers and the braying of mules, suddenly grew quieter when three men leaned against the rail near the saloon, their eyes narrowing on Amelia. They were ranch hands, rough and spoiled by whiskey, men who found amusement in tormenting others. One spat into the dirt, nudged his friend, and drawled loud enough for half the square to hear. "There goes the poor man's daughter, strutting like she's Queen of Montana." Another smirked, stepping into her path and said, "That dress looks awful fine for someone who can't pay her debts. Maybe it ain't yours. Maybe you're borrowing it for attention." Amelia froze, her knuckles tightening on her basket, her voice trapped in her throat. She turned to walk around them, but a hand shot out and gripped her sleeve, yanking her back. Her heart pounded as they laughed, circling her like wolves. "How about we see how it fits when it's torn?" The first one jeered, tugging at the hem of her dress, making her stumble. Her cry echoed through the square, sharp and desperate. The townsfolk looked away, some in pity, some in silent approval, but none stepped forward. Amelia's eyes blurred with tears, humiliation burning through her veins, until suddenly a shadow fell over her. He was tall, broad-shouldered and silent, the kind of man who commanded space without words. His name was Colt Walker, a rancher known for his solitude, his land stretching wide across the valley, and his temper that few dared to test. For months Amelia had only seen him from afar, riding through town on a black stallion, hat pulled low, a mystery wrapped in strength. Now he stood between her and the men, his jaw clenched, his eyes burning like wildfire. "Let her go." Colt's voice was low, deadly calm, but trembling with rage that made even the horses shift nervously. The man holding Amelia laughed, though his bravado faltered. "This ain't your business, Walker. She's just—" He didn't finish. Colt's hand shot out, iron fast, gripping the man's wrist until the sound of bones straining cracked the air. The ranch hand cried out, releasing Amelia instantly while Colt shoved him back with a force that sent him sprawling into the dirt. "Touch her again," Colt growled, his voice shaking with barely contained fury, "and you'll pray you'd never been born." The other two men shifted uneasily, but their pride chained them in place. "You can't fight all of us," one sneered, though his bravado rang hollow. Colt's eyes flickered, his breath heavy, his body trembling with anger so fierce it looked like the earth itself might split. "Try me," he whispered, voice like thunder before a storm. The marketplace had gone silent. Even the wind seemed to pause. Then with a sudden move, the second ranch hand lunged, but Colt's fist connected first, a crack splitting the hush as the man tumbled against a wagon, groaning. The third backed away, muttering curses, dragging his companions with him, but not without one last glare that promised trouble. Still, none dared to push further. Amelia clutched her torn sleeve, shaking, her breath ragged. She looked at Colt, her lips trembling as she whispered, They tried to tear my dress. They wanted to shame me." Tears spilled, her words soaked in years of pain, of being mocked, shunned, and powerless. Colt turned to her, and though his hands still shook with rage, his gaze softened as it landed on her. For the first time, Amelia saw more than a silent rancher. She saw a protector, a man whose fury was not against her but for her. He removed his coat and draped it gently over her shoulders, shielding her from the stares of the crowd. "No one touches you again," he said firmly, each word a vow etched in steel. The people watching shifted uncomfortably, guilt in their eyes, but none dared to speak. With steady hands, Colt guided Amelia out of the square, every step declaring to the world that she was no longer alone. Back at his ranch, the evening sun stretched gold across the horizon, yet Amelia could not shake the day's horror. Sitting at his wooden table, sipping warm tea he'd set before her, she whispered, Why did you help me? No one else ever does." Colt leaned against the wall, arms crossed, his expression unreadable. Because you didn't deserve it, he said simply. Because I've seen too many people look away when something evil happens. His jaw clenched, and his eyes flickered with old ghosts of his own past, losses, and betrayals that had carved him into stone. And because, Amelia, no one should ever cry like that and be left alone. Her heart clenched. Not from fear this time, but from something unfamiliar. Hope. She had lived so long in shadows that his words felt like sunlight breaking through. They'll come after you, she murmured. Those men won't forgive being shamed. Colt's lips curved into the faintest, most dangerous smile. Let them come. I don't scare easy. The days that followed were tense. Word of Colt's defense spread across Dry Creek like wildfire. Some whispered admiration, others resentment. But everyone knew the rancher's fury had been awakened. The three men nursed their wounds, plotting vengeance, but they hesitated, for Colt Walker was not a man to cross lightly. As for Amelia, she found herself drawn to the ranch more often, helping in small ways, cooking meals, mending fences, and for the first time in years, feeling useful, wanted, safe, yet she also carried guilt. You've risked everything for me, she told Colt one evening as they watched the sunset paint the sky in fire. What if they burn your ranch? What if they hurt you? I'm not worth that. Colt turned to her, eyes steady. Don't ever say that again. You are worth more than you know. You've carried pain alone for too long. Let me carry some of it. His hand brushed hers, strong yet gentle, and her heart trembled. It wasn't long before the threat returned. One night under a silver moon, the ranch hands rode to Colt's land, torches in hand, ready to set fire to his barn. Amelia saw them first from the window, panic rising in her chest. Colt, they're here, she cried, clutching his arm. Colt grabbed his rifle, his body tensed like a coiled spring, but when he stepped outside, he didn't fire. Instead, he stood in the yard, the moonlight carving him into a figure of defiance. Drop the torches, he roared, his voice carrying across the fields. Or I swear on this land you won't leave standing. His fury shook him, every vein alive with rage, but his control was iron. The men hesitated, fear finally cracking their bravado. This ain't over, Walker, one spat, tossing the torch into the dirt before retreating into the night. Colt lowered his rifle, his breath harsh, his body trembling, not from fear, but from the storm inside him. Amelia rushed to his side, clutching his sleeve, her voice breaking. Please, don't risk yourself for me anymore. Colt looked at her, eyes blazing with something more than anger. Amelia, I'm not risking anything. Protecting you isn't a choice, it's who I am now. Tears welled in her eyes as she realized the truth. This rancher, this silent, furious man, had become her shield, her anchor. The town might sneer, the men might threaten, but as long as Colt Walker stood by her, she was no longer the broken, abandoned girl shamed in the marketplace. She was a woman seen, defended, cherished, and though the world around them might rage, the bond forged that day in Dry Creek would never break. So, dear listener, if this story gripped your heart, if you felt Amelia's pain and Colt's burning rage, then remember, strength isn't just in fists or fury, but in standing up when no one else will. If you want more powerful stories of courage, love, and redemption, make sure to subscribe to this channel right now. Hit that like button, share this story with someone who needs to hear it, and stay with us for more tales that will move your soul and keep you on the edge of your seat. Your support is what keeps these stories alive, and together we'll keep telling them.